Hi, it's Rob Bryanton, and it's January 8th, 2008, the Imagining the 10th Dimension video blog. I've talked a lot about Douglas Hofstadter's book, I Am a Strange Loop, and he's a big fan, and so am I, of video feedback. The idea that consciousness might actually be a self-replicating loop, or as John Wheeler called it, a self-excited loop, observing itself, is something that really appeals to me. I think there's a lot of power in that idea. And video feedback, I mean, it's just kind of fun to play with too. So if you'd like to read along with this blog, it's available at 10thdimension.com/blog. There are links within that you can click on, which can enhance your enjoyment of reading along with this blog as well. This one, Google, Memes, and Randomness. Can you remember what life was like before Google? That's what this week's poll question is about. 2008 is the 10th anniversary of Google, our world's premium meme tracker. How would you say Google has changed the way you interact with the information that is our reality? As it turns out, most of the responders to that poll did say better, more immersive, but it's still interesting to really make people stop and think about that, because it's really affected the way that people interact with reality since Google became a part of our lives. I go on in the blog. As you can see, I'm using language related to this project to ask a question whose answer might seem obvious to some, but the question is an important one. By the time information becomes so much easier to access, are we in danger of becoming a world of skimmers, flitting along the top peaks but rarely immersing ourselves in the deep valleys of that information? Google helps us to settle questions that 10 years ago might have been the source of endless debate. And surely debate can be a healthy exercise in the exploration of ideas. But the conversation-stopping moments that used to happen, when was Paul McCartney born? I used to know that. Guess that brain cell's no longer kicking in. Never mind. Those have been replaced with a few deftly chosen keywords into the Google search window, and the answer is there for our perusal in 0.14 seconds. But we're talking about much more than rock star trivia here. In fact, we're talking about all aspects of human knowledge being revved up and churned through and exchanged at rates that would have been unfathomable a decade ago. In TENS, Google, and the expanding universe, another of the blog entries here, we played with ideas surrounding the expanding sea of information that Google gives us access to. And the interesting coincidence that 2008 is the 10th anniversary of both Google and the discovery that our universe's expansion is accelerating. Let's talk about order from randomness. Starting from the quantum mechanics idea of information equals reality, I've been talking about a random set of patterns encoded into the underlying quantum fabric of our reality, and how that randomness works as a satisfactory starting point for imagining the complexity of the universe we're in right now. Randomness is really not the interesting part of the story, though. What is interesting is that true randomness has to have pockets of order, pockets or parts where one state is preferred over another, and those pockets of order will have places where they begin and places where they end. Flipping a coin 100 times will not give you endlessly repeating heads, tails outcomes, nor will it give you 50 heads outcomes followed by 50 tails outcomes, even though, statistically speaking, that is what we would expect our overall totals to be very near for such an exercise. Likewise, if the unobserved whole of quantum indeterminacy that our universe came from is truly random, then there must be pockets of grouping within that randomness. Calling these pockets the big picture memes that caused our universe to be the one selected out of a multiverse of other universes is an idea I've been promoting. For more about the patterns that begin and end being what creates our probabilistic reality, please refer to my blog entries called Everything and You Can't Get There From Here. This leads us back to Google, and the thing that Google is so good at, keeping track of the memes of all shapes, sizes, and durations that are part of the information that is our reality. Memes are patterns in the information, and memes tend to rise and fall over time. In my last blog entry, I talked about the search bar here at the top of my browser. If I type a single letter in, I am immediately presented with 10 or so suggestions, which tells me These are some of the memes that are most active at this moment for our culture. If I were to make note of the suggestions that came up today, then perform the same check a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, and so on, what would I see? There would be some suggestions that continue to be the same, and there would be some that were short-lived. Keeping a record of these lists would be like a mini time capsule. And of course, there are a number of efforts underway around the net to capture records like these, so we will be able to analyze and compare the changes that have happened in our Googleverse of information from years past and over the years to come as the web continues to develop. Next section is entitled, I'm a Spime and So Are You. Something as simple as writing down the 26 top suggestions corresponding to the 26 letters of the alphabet gives us a rudimentary way to track some of the memes that rise and fall and the shapes that would be created by the duration for a certain suggestion over months or years. It's conceptually similar to the long undulating snake or long body. We are imagining ourselves across the fourth dimension, while our embryonic self at one end and our deceased self at the other, describing that. This also relates to the concept of spimes that Bruce Sterling has been using to refer to physical objects that have been tracked, so that they now have a defined and recallable shape across space and time. How can we tell if a meme or a spime is the result of randomness or deliberate manipulation? Whether or not you believe the patterns that created our universe are the result of randomness or the deliberate manipulation by a higher power, they are patterns nonetheless. The patterns of information that sustain across a period of time continue to be operated upon by other patterns in the future. And this concept is very connected to what Richard Dawkins is talking about with his description of the randomness that creates life and evolution. Once something is no longer being acted upon by those processes, it ceases to have any further change. Which leads finally to one of my favorite phrases for this project, that which ceases to change, ceases to exist. Whether you are talking about the formation of our universe, the beginning of life, or the memes that rise and fall, and Google helps us to track, that concept applies. Genes, memes, and spimes. Each is a shape or a pattern across space and time. Those that cease to exist cannot be operated upon by patterns in the information that is our reality from that moment forward. Those that continue to exist can be combined together or modified, sometimes in ways that are improvements that allow them to continue in time still further for even more editing and manipulation, and sometimes in ways that will soon cause them to cease to exist, which is how a sea of information becomes a universe, how a primitive chemical reaction becomes a human being, and how a simple idea can become known throughout the world. There's a PS to this blog entry, June 18th, 1942. But you probably already Googled that if you're interested, didn't you? To finish this entry, I'd like to show a video for one of the 26 songs from this project, and this is about the dancing patterns of information that create our reality. The song is called From the Corner of My Eye. Thank you, everyone. This is Rob Bryanton from Imagining the 10th Dimension. Enjoy the journey.
From the corner of my eye, I saw it. I thought I caught a glimpse at the edge of sight. Just a tiny inkling, very hard to see. I flutter like 1,000 wings in flight. In the corner of my mind, I questioned, well, how could there be more than this world of ours? Just a trick of vision, disorder of the mind, a pattern of tiny twirling stars. At the corner of my eye, from the corner of my eye, I saw the dance and spin over the world within. Such a mystery. From the corner of my eye, hidden in the folds, those are the worlds untold. How can it be? In the corner of my heart, I felt it. Oh, there's so many worlds that we cannot see. Just around the corner, hard for us to turn. Angels dancing endlessly. At the corner of our eye, from the corner of my eye, I saw the dance and spin over the world within. It's such a mystery. From the corner of my eye, hidden in the phone, those are the words untold. I ask you, how can it be?
Life was like before Google. That's what this week's poll question is about. 2008 is the 10th anniversary of Google, our world's premium meme tracker. How would you say Google has changed the way you interact with the information that is our reality? As it turns out, most 2008, the Imagining the 10th Dimension video blog. I've talked a lot about Douglas Hofstadter's book, I Am a Strange Loop, and he's a big fan, and so am I, of video feedback. The idea that consciousness might actually be Hi, it's Rob Bryanton, and it's January 8th, a self-replicating loop, or as John Wheeler called it, a self-excited loop, observing itself, is something that really appeals to me. I think there's a lot of power in that idea. And video feedback, I mean, it's just kind of fun to play with too. So if you'd like to read along with this blog, it's available at 10thdimension.com/blog. There are links within that you can click on, which can enhance your enjoyment of reading along with this blog as well. This one, Google, Memes, and Randomness. Can you remember what